With apologies to Nevin Glenn, who did such a wonderful job singing Once in Royal David City this evening, I was a pretty good boy soprano of my own back in the day. So good, in fact, that when I was 13 years old, I was cast as Amal in Amal and the Night Visitors. This story, written by Giancarlo Menotti, a wonderful opera, tells the story of a poor crippled boy and his mother who are visited by the three kings on their way to see the Christ child. Amal's mother, made desperate by poverty, tries to steal the gold in the dark of night. When she's caught, Amal offers the only thing that he has to the baby, his only possession, his crutch. Immediately, Amal is healed by a power beyond sight and understanding. In gratitude for the healing, he resolves to walk with the kings on their journey to Bethlehem. It's a wonderful story whose real power is in the glorious music of the piece. And I was doing it some justice, effortlessly hitting the high notes, holding right on pitch, even strumming the heartstrings with my acting, little ham that I was. But then, a month before the Christmas Eve performance, something terrible happened to me. Something which invariably happens to boys around the age of 13 or so. You know what it is? Puberty. And my voice started changing right then and there. And the high notes were no longer effortless, but strained and garbled. And the perfect pitch became wavering and uncertain. I can remember going to those rehearsals day after day, knowing I was getting just a little bit worse day after day. We opened, we closed, people were appreciative and kind. Things went fine. The woman playing my mother was a marvelous mezzo-soprano, member of the voice faculty. She was the Karen Lee Post of the UW Eau Claire at the time. She stole the show, and I was sincere and adorable, if a bit harmonally and hormonally challenged. Like I still am today. The trauma of that rehearsal process still lingers, and I wonder if that rehearsal process sets the tone for Christmases to come. Just a little bit harder every time. Not up to what we had hoped for. Always falling a little bit short of what we really desire, of what we planned for and prepared for. As a parent, I find myself nostalgic for those Christmases when the magic of the season shone in my young children's eyes. Gone, of course, are the memories of what also went on during those Christmases, when each of my children ended up in angry, inconsolable tears, probably 3 or 4 times over the holidays, because their toy broke, or they didn't get the precise piece of turkey that they wanted, or their sister or brother got a gift that they liked better than their gifts, or because they were overexcited from all the titter and glinsel. I'm coining a phrase here, by the way, titter and glinsel. Or they were overtired from getting up too early, or because somebody's leg was touching somebody else's leg as they sat in church, and they threatened to go off like an air raid siren right in the quietest part of the candlelight service. That's the danger of nostalgia, of course, of holding on to our selective memories and thinking them accurate reflections of a glorious past. All of us nostalgic types might as well have shown up tonight wearing red Santa caps with the lettering, "Make Christmas Great Again." Nostalgia sours the present, making us feel like things are always getting a little bit worse and worse, making it harder and harder to have the Christmas we want. And boy, do we feel the pressure of having a wonderful Christmas. It's kind of like the story of the remote monastery deep in the woods, where the monks followed a rigid vow of silence. This vow could only be broken once a year on Christmas Day by one monk, and this monk could only speak one sentence. So, one Christmas, It was Brother Thomas's turn to speak, and he rose and said, I love the delightful mashed potatoes we have every year with the Christmas roast. And then he sat down, and silence ensued for the next 364 days. The next Christmas, Brother Michael got his turn, rising on Christmas to say, I think the mashed potatoes are lumpy, and I don't like them. And he sat down, and once again, silence ensued for 364 days. Then the following Christmas, it was Brother Paul's turn. He rose and said, I am fed up with this constant bickering. We put too much pressure on Christmas, don't we? Acting like Christmas has the one and only last word, defines our families, defines our relationships, defines our lives, and we put our money where the pressure is. The average American estimates that she or he will spend $794 on Christmas gift giving this year, pumping billions of dollars into the American economy. And that's down, by the way, from last year's average estimated spending of $862. Kind of makes you think that there was a war on Christmas and Amazon won. Our economy feels that Christmas pressure. That makes it easy to get pretty bah humbug about the advertisers and the marketers and the retailers. But let's be honest with ourselves. Honest about how we religious folks celebrate Christmas. Christmas was banned in 1699 by the Pilgrims for having too much revelry. Well, how far have we come from how those Pilgrims observed, or rather did not observe Christmas, to the joyous and rather complicated festival that we make of our Christmas Eve service tonight? So, perhaps tonight is a good time to remind ourselves that Christmas is really a one-off in our lives. It's a bit of a show. It's a party. It's a rehearsal for the real thing. Christmas is a rehearsal for the more important tasks of your life. The point of Christmas is not the necktie that you buy your father, or the scarf you give your mother, or the toy you offer to your child. Giving that gift is just a rehearsal for the real thing, the real gifts that others need from you: love, respect, forgiveness, affection. In a Peanuts comic strip, Lucy and Charlie Brown are talking about the meaning of Christmas. Lucy says that Christmas is a time for kindness and goodwill, a time when we accept one another, welcoming others into our home and into our lives. Charlie Brown responds by saying, why just at Christmas? Why can't we be kind and accepting and hospitable all through the year? Then Lucy looks at Charlie Brown and says, what are you, some kind of religious fanatic? We gather tonight as a bunch of religious fanatics, at least as Lucy would describe them. We gather to rehearse the kind of life we want to lead every day and throughout the year. A life of generosity, a life of grace, of kind attention and lavished affection. For us, Charlie Browns that we all are, that's the meaning of Christmas. Even our scriptural account of the birth of Jesus is really just a rehearsal for what's to come, a rehearsal of the world-changing life, teaching, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The point isn't the lowly shepherds, the wandering, miracle-seeking magi, the Roman-mandated caravan of refugees sent across wild and dangerous country as an exercise of imperial power. The point is how Jesus lived, died, and was raised for those people. The point is that such people are with us still today. The point is how they are treated, how they are loved and cared for by God and all of us who journey through life in the name and service of Jesus Christ. That's the gift that Christ offers us. That's the gift that we're called to offer each other. In his autobiography, the playwright Moss Hart describes one particular Christmas Eve at the turn of the century when he was 10. His family was living in New York City. They were very poor, and Moss was surprised that special night when his father said, "Let's go downtown," and set out to walk down on 149th Street, a part of town where there were push carts full of toys lined up for shoppers. Moss knew that his dad was going to try and buy him a Christmas present, but he also knew that his dad had very little money. Later he figured out that his dad had 75 cents in his pocket as he went shopping. They walked by the carts. Hart said he saw all sorts of toys that he wanted there, but after his father asked the price, the two of them would move quietly to the next cart, his father putting his hands in his pocket and fingering the 3 coins. So it went from one cart to another cart to another cart. Nothing the youngster wanted could be purchased for what the father had been able to save. This is how Moss Hart remembers his feeling that night. As I looked at him, I saw a look of despair and disappointment in his eyes that brought me closer to him than I had ever been in my life. I wanted to throw my arms around him and say, "It doesn't matter. I understand. This is better than a chemistry set or a printing press. I love you." But instead, we stood shivering beside each other for a moment, then turned away from the last 2 push carts and started silently back home. I didn't even take his hand on the way home, nor did he take mine. Nor did I ever tell him how close I felt that night, that for a little while the concrete wall between father and son had crumbled away, and I knew that we were 2 lonely people struggling to reach each other. Christmas is a rehearsal for the real thing. So even if you bought the wrong present or couldn't afford the right present, even if you overcooked the ham or burned the pecan pie, even if the toys are all broken by noon and the kids in tears by 1, remember the real gifts that you have to give one another on the holy day of Christmas, and through a child who makes all days holy. Gifts of grace, gifts of love, gifts of forgiveness, kindness, and respect, gifts of justice, hope, and peace. When the show of Christmas is over, what Christmas is supposed to prepare us for, our real life, has just begun. Amen.